Good morning, learners. My module code is PEPS 171, Educational Psychology. The next slide, we have introduction. Our subject is history. Generative topic, the Soweto Uprising of 1976. The goal of this lesson is to understand the fight against apartheid. By the end of this lesson, students will understand the causes, events, and significance of the Soweto Uprising in the context of South African history. The goal of the lesson is to understand the fight against apartheid, specifically the Soweto Uprising and its significance in South African history, highlighting the struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs of those who fought for equality and justice. On this slide, we have the background. There we have the Soweto map, the image of the Soweto map. Second point, overview of apartheid and effects on youth. Apartheid in South Africa was a system of institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination that heavily impacted the youth, particularly black South Africans. The apartheid regime enforced inferior education, poor living conditions, and limited opportunities for black youth, leading to widespread poverty, unemployment, and mental health issues. The long-term thinking centered process. Here I would ask the students, how did the apartheid regime policies affect the lives of the youth in Soweto? Next slide, we have the causes of the uprising. First point, Afrikaans policy, Afrikaans language policy, lack of representation, and poor education. Afrikaans policy, the apartheid government introduced Afrikaans as a compulsory language of instruction in schools, which was deeply represented by black students. This policy was seen as an attempt to suppress their culture and identity. Lack of representation, black students had limited representation in school governance and decision-making process, leading to feelings of powerlessness and frustration. This lack of representation meant that their concerns and needs were often ignored. Poor education. The Bantu education system provided inferior education to black students with inadequate resources, poorly trained teachers, and limited opportunities for further education and employment. This perpetuated inequality and limited social mobility. Performance of understanding. I would ask the students what they would do if they were students in the Soweto Uprising facing these challenges. June 16, 1976. On this slide, here we have the photo of students protesting and the police response. Student-led protest. On June 16, 1976, thousands of Soweto students peacefully protested against the Afrikaans language policy and inferior education. They marched through the streets singing and carrying signs. The police responded with brutality, firing tear gas and live ammunition at the students. Many students were killed or injured, including a 13-year-old Hector Peterson, who became a symbol of the uprising. Atmosphere of inquiry. Here I would ask the students what they would do Or what do they think motivated the students to take a stand against the government? Our next slides, we have the photo of Hector Peterson. The story of Hector Peterson. Hector Peterson, a 13-year-old student, was shot and killed by police during the Soweto uprising on June 16, 1976. An iconic photograph of him being carried by Mbuyisa Makubo with his sister Antoinette Sithole running alongside became a powerful symbol of the uprising and the brutality of the apartheid regime. Reflection question: I would ask the students, how does the story of Hector Peterson impact their lives, understanding of Soweto uprising? The impact of the uprising: it drew international attention, it increased resistance and youth-led movements. The Soweto uprising drew global attention to the brutality of the apartheid regime, leading to increased international condemnation and pressure on the South African government. The uprising sparked a wave of resistance and activism across South Africa, with more people joining the fight against apartheid. The Soweto uprising marked a significant turning point in the youth-led activism, inspiring a new generation of young people to take a stand against apartheid and fight for their rights. Ongoing assessment: I would ask my students, how do they think the Soweto uprising contributed to the eventual collapse of apartheid? Our next slide, we have the photo of student activists, those who were in tertiary at the time. The discussion question: here I would ask my students, what role did students' activism play in the Soweto uprising, and how can we apply this to current social issues? Our next slide, the legacy of Soweto uprising. Here we have the photo of the Soweto uprising memorial. The legacy of the Soweto uprising is remembered and celebrated in South Africa through various events and commemorations. Youth Day celebration, which is one of the events every year on June 16, 1976. On June 16, South Africa commemorate Youth Day, a national holiday honoring the bravery students who rose against the apartheid regime in 1976. The reflection question: here I would ask my student, how is the legacy of the Soweto uprising remembered and celebrated? Like I have alluded there, so this is the answer they would give me, but I would have to hear what do they think, engage them. How is the legacy of the Soweto uprising is remembered and celebrated in South Africa today? That is the question I would ask my students. Next slide, transfer to current issues. The first point there, we have teach for transfer. The Soweto uprising's lessons can be applied to current social justice movements by empowering youth activism, building collective action through coalitions, and fostering resilience in the face of repression. By recognizing intersectionality and amplifying marginalized voices, Movements can build broader support and create lasting change, ultimately driving progress toward a more justice and equitable society. Discussion question there. Here I would ask my student, what role can young people play in bringing about positive change in their communities? Our next slide, reflection. Here we have a photo of students who went on a school trip to learn more about their history, specifically the Soweto uprising. They went to the memorial of the June 16, 1976 Soweto uprising memorial to learn more about the bravery of students who rose against the apartheid regime at that time. Reflection question. Here I would ask my student, what did they learn about the Soweto uprising that surprised them or made them think differently? In conclusion, I would like to thank you for watching this video.